Languages tell us stories about human history. They show us how people lived, traded, fought, and shared ideas across time. The world's major languages like Latin, Sanskrit, and Arabic shaped how millions of people communicate today. Latin started as the language of a small group of people living near the Tiber River in Italy. As Rome grew from a city into an empire, Latin spread across Europe. Soldiers spoke it in Britain, traders used it in North Africa, and priests wrote in it across the Mediterranean. Even after the Roman Empire fell, Latin stayed important. Churches kept using it, students learned it in schools, writers wrote books in it. This went on for over 1,000 years. The Latin language changed as it moved to new places. In France, it mixed with local words and became French. In Spain, it turned into Spanish. In Italy, it became Italian. Today, we call these the Romance languages because they came from Roman Latin. English uses many Latin words too. When you say exit, animal, or library, you're using Latin words that survived for 2,000 years. Sanskrit grew up in South Asia. It was first spoken by people who moved into India from the north. These people wrote down sacred texts called the Vedas in Sanskrit. The language was so important that teachers and students spent years learning its exact pronunciation and grammar rules. They wanted to make sure the holy words stayed the same over time. Sanskrit spread across Asia along with Indian culture and religion. When Buddhism started in India, many Buddhist texts were written in Sanskrit. As Buddhism moved to China, Tibet, and Southeast Asia, Sanskrit words moved too. Today, languages like Hindi, Bengali, and Nepali use many Sanskrit words. Even English has some Sanskrit words like jungle and karma. Arabic began among people living in what we now call the Arabian Peninsula. When Islam started there in the 600 CE, Arabic became very important because it was the language of the Quran, Islam's holy book. As Islamic rulers built a large empire, Arabic spread from Spain to India. People needed to learn Arabic to read the Quran, but they also used it for other things. Scientists wrote about medicine in Arabic. Mathematicians used it to explain algebra. Poets wrote beautiful Arabic poems. Traders used Arabic in markets from Morocco to Indonesia. This made Arabic a language of learning and business, not just religion. Today, Arabic is still widely used. People speak different types of Arabic in different countries, but they all use classical Arabic, the language of the Quran, for formal writing and religious purposes. Many languages use Arabic words. When you say coffee, sugar, or algebra, you're using words that came from Arabic. The movement of languages shows us how ideas and cultures spread. When Persian rulers conquered new lands, they brought their language with them. Persian words entered Turkish, Hindi, and other languages. When Greek scholars wrote about science and philosophy, their words spread to other languages. That's why we use Greek words like democracy and physics. Chinese is one of the oldest languages still used today. It influenced many East Asian languages. Japanese and Korean borrowed Chinese writing systems and many Chinese words. Vietnamese also uses many Chinese words. For a long time, Chinese writing was used by educated people across East Asia, similar to how Latin was used in Europe. Languages also spread through trade. When people bought and sold things, they shared words too. The ancient Silk Road didn't just carry silk and spices, it carried languages. Traders needed to talk to each other, so they learned words from different languages. Some of these words stayed in the languages even after the trading stopped. The spread of European power after 1500 CE made some languages very important around the world. Spanish and Portuguese spread to South America. English spread to North America, Australia, and many other places. French spread to parts of Africa and Asia. These languages changed as they met local languages. They picked up new words and sometimes mixed with local languages to create new ways of speaking. Today, English is used by many people around the world. This happened partly because Britain had a large empire, and partly because the United States became very powerful in the 1900s. Many people learn English to do business, study science, or use the internet. But English has borrowed words from many other languages. When you say pasta, Italian, kindergarten, German, or robot, Czech, you're using words English borrowed from other languages. Languages keep changing and mixing. New words come from new things. When people invented computers, they needed new words to talk about them. When people from different places meet and marry, their children might speak multiple languages or mix languages together. Some languages are used less as younger people speak more common languages. The way languages spread tells us about power. Usually, when one group rules over another, their language becomes important. The ruled people often have to learn the ruler's language. This happened with Latin in Roman times, Arabic in Islamic lands, and English in the British Empire. But sometimes the ruler's language changes too. When Norman French rulers controlled England, English took many French words. Some languages disappeared as more powerful languages spread. This still happens today. When young people stop learning their parents' language and use a more common language instead, the old language might die out. Many Native American languages disappeared after European languages came to the Americas. The same thing happened to many Aboriginal languages in Australia. People try to keep languages alive in different ways. Some governments make laws to protect languages. Schools teach children in their local languages. People write books and make movies in less common languages. The internet helps people learn and use different languages. Some people work to write down languages that were never written before. Small languages are important because they show different ways of thinking and living. Each language has special words for things that matter to its speakers. Languages that grew up in cold places have many words for snow and ice. Languages from places with many kinds of plants have special words for each plant. When a language disappears, this special knowledge might disappear too. Languages also show us how humans think. All languages have ways to talk about time, family, and basic things like food and weather. But languages do this differently. Some languages use different words depending on who you're talking to. Others have special ways to show if something happened just now or long ago. These differences show us different ways of seeing the world. The future of languages is changing because of technology. People can easily learn languages using computers and phones. They can talk to people who speak other languages using translation programs. Some people worry that this might make some languages less important. Others think it will help save small languages by making them easier to learn and use. Translation between languages is getting better with new technology. Computers can now translate words quickly, even if they don't always get everything right. This helps people from different places understand each other. But good translation still needs humans who know both languages well. Some ideas and feelings are hard to translate exactly from one language to another. Sign languages are important too. They grew up when deaf people needed to communicate. Different places have different sign languages, just like they have different spoken languages. American Sign Language is different from British Sign Language or Chinese Sign Language. Sign languages have their own grammar and history, just like spoken languages. Written language changed how languages spread. When people wrote things down, their words could last longer and go further. Writing helped religions spread. It helped rulers control large areas. It helped people remember stories and history. Different places made different writing systems. Some used pictures that meant words. Others used marks that meant sounds. Some writing systems spread to other languages. Today, most languages use one of a few writing systems. Many European and American languages use the Roman alphabet, the same letters used to write English. Many languages in India use writing systems that came from ancient Indian writing. Chinese characters are used to write Chinese, Japanese, and sometimes Korean. Arabic letters are used to write Arabic, Persian, and some other languages. Languages show us that humans are creative. When people need to say new things, they make new words or use old words in new ways. When people meet others who speak differently, they find ways to talk to each other. Sometimes they make new mixed languages. Sometimes they learn each other's languages. Sometimes they use simple sign language or drawings. The story of world languages is really a story about people. It shows how people moved around the world. It shows how they shared ideas and changed each other's ways of living. It shows how they ruled each other and fought each other. It shows how they traded and worked together. Most of all, it shows how people always find ways to talk to each other. The way we study languages has changed over time. In the past, people mostly studied old, written languages like Latin and Sanskrit. Now, researchers study all kinds of languages, including ones that were never written down. They record people speaking, write down the words and grammar rules, and try to understand how the language works. Scientists who study languages notice interesting patterns. Languages that are close to each other often share words and grammar rules. English, German, and Dutch share many words because they came from the same older language. The same is true for Hindi, Bengali, and Marathi, which all came from Sanskrit. By studying these patterns, scientists can learn how languages are related to each other. Some languages stayed mostly in one place while others moved far. Chinese mainly stayed in East Asia but changed a lot over time. Ancient Chinese sounds very different from modern Chinese. Meanwhile, languages like English, Spanish, and Arabic spread far from where they started and changed as they met other languages. The way people use language also tells us about their society. Some languages have very polite ways of speaking to show respect to older people or important people. Japanese has different words to use with different people. Korean changes verb endings based on who you're talking to. This shows that these societies care a lot about showing respect through language. Some languages borrow words more easily than others. English takes words from many languages and makes them English words. French tries to make new French words instead of using foreign words. Japanese takes foreign words but changes their pronunciation to fit Japanese sounds. This shows how different cultures react to foreign influences. Looking at old languages helps us understand human history. When scientists find that different languages share words for things like wheel or horse, it tells them when people started using these things. If two far apart languages share words for farming, it might mean their ancestors farmed together before splitting up. Languages also show us old trading routes. The word tea sounds similar in many European languages because they all got tea and the word for it from China through the same trading routes. But Portuguese and some other languages say cha because they got tea through different trading routes. Some languages became important for specific things. Latin was the main language of science in Europe for many years. Many scientific names for plants and animals still use Latin. Sanskrit was important for religious studies in South Asia. Arabic was important for math and science during the Middle Ages. Today, English is important for international business and science. Different languages can make people think differently. If your language has many words for different kinds of snow, you might notice snow types more easily. If your language uses different words for light blue and dark blue, you might see these as more different than someone whose language uses one word for all blues. Writing changed languages in important ways. When people write languages down, the languages often change more slowly. Written language helps people far apart use the same language. But spoken language keeps changing as people use it every day. This is why written Arabic and spoken Arabic can be very different, or why written Chinese looks the same even when spoken Chinese sounds different in different places. The number of languages in the world is getting smaller. Many small languages disappear when young people stop using them. Often this happens because they need to use bigger languages to get jobs or go to school. Some people think we should try to save all languages. Others think it's natural for languages to appear and disappear over time. New types of language are appearing too. People make new signs and symbols to use in text messages and online. These symbols can cross language barriers. A smiley face means the same thing to people who speak different languages. Some people worry this might change how we use traditional languages. Language also shows power relationships between people. In many places, people had to stop using their own languages when rulers told them to use a different language. This happened to many Native American children who were forced to speak English in schools. It happened to Korean people who had to use Japanese during Japanese rule. Some of these languages are now becoming stronger again as people work to bring them back. Some languages became international not because of empire or war, but because of trade and usefulness. Swahili spread along the East African coast because traders used it. Many people in West Africa learned Hausa to trade. In Southeast Asia, Malay became widely used for trade between islands. Religions helped spread some languages but also kept some languages alive. Classical Arabic stayed the same for many years because it was the language of the Quran. Church Slavonic, an old form of Slavic, is still used in some Orthodox Christian churches. Hebrew was mainly used for Jewish religious purposes for many years before becoming everyday language in Israel. Sometimes new languages appear when different languages meet. Pidgin languages start when people who speak different languages need to talk to each other, like for trading. These simple languages can grow into complete languages called Creole languages. This happened with Tok-Pisin in Papua New Guinea and many Caribbean Creole languages. Songs and stories help keep languages alive. People remember languages better when they learn songs in them. Epic poems in Sanskrit and ancient Greek stayed the same for many years because people memorized them carefully. Today, music helps spread languages. People often learn new languages to understand songs they like. Different jobs need different languages. Pilots and air traffic controllers around the world must speak English for safety. Many computer programming languages use English words. Scientists often write their research in English so more people can read it. But workers might need to know local languages to talk to customers or colleagues. Translation between languages is an art as much as a science. Some words don't have exact matches in other languages. Jokes and poems can be especially hard to translate. Good translators need to understand both the languages and the cultures they come from. They need to know when to translate exactly and when to change things so they make sense in the new language. The internet changes how we use languages. People can easily write in their own languages online. They can find others who speak the same language, even if they live far apart. Translation tools help people understand websites in other languages. But many small languages aren't used much online, which might make them less useful over time. Language changes how we think about time. Some languages talk about time as moving from front to back. Others talk about it moving up and down. Some languages don't talk about time in terms of space at all. This might change how people think about past and future. Weather and environment affect languages too. Languages from cold places often have many words for types of ice and snow. Languages from places with many kinds of rice have many words for rice. Languages from places with dangerous animals often have special words to warn about danger quickly. Body language and gestures are different in different places. Nodding your head means yes in some places but no in others. Hand gestures that are friendly in one place might be rude in another. These differences can cause confusion even when people speak the same language. Even numbers work differently in different languages. Some languages have words only for one, two, and many. Others have very complex number systems. The way languages handle numbers might affect how people think about amounts and mathematics. Colors have different names in different languages. Not all languages split colors the same way English does. Some languages don't differentiate between green and blue. Others have different words for types of red that English speakers might see as the same. This shows that even basic things like colors can be seen differently through different languages. Language changes with age and social groups. Young people often use different words than older people. Different jobs have their own special words. People might speak differently with friends than with teachers or bosses. These differences help people show which groups they belong to. Cities often have many languages. People from different places come to cities to work or study. Their children might grow up speaking several languages. Sometimes new mixed ways of speaking develop in cities as people combine different languages. This has happened in many big cities around the world. Languages also show gender in different ways. Some languages use different words depending on if men or women are speaking. Others mark all nouns as masculine or feminine. English used to do this more but now does it less. This shows how languages can change as society's ideas about gender change. The future of languages will keep changing as the world changes. More people might learn several languages as the world gets more connected. Some languages might disappear, but new ones might appear. Technology might change how we use language, but people will always need ways to share their thoughts and feelings with others. Understanding different languages helps people understand each other better. It shows that there are many ways to think about and describe the world. It helps people respect different cultures and ways of living. Most importantly, it helps people communicate and work together across different cultures and places.